All right, we're breaking news tonight. Brand new developments in the Trump administration's attacks on a judge's ruling, the judge who issued a temporary pause to deportation flights based on an 18th century law. The Attorney General Pam Bondi invoked the State Secrets Act in refusing to turn over information requested by the judge about when the flights left, who was on them, etc. This is the language from the 10-page document file. Further intrusions on the executive branch would present dangerous and wholly unwarranted separation of powers harms with respect to diplomatic and national security concerns that the court lacks competence to address. So I think a judge may not be a great idea. And it was not the only tough moment with a judge today. Just hours ago, a different federal judge told Trump administration lawyers point blank they are treating migrants worse than...
There were plane loads of people. There were no procedures in place to notify people. Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemy Act.
Well, Your Honor, we certainly dispute the Nazi analogy.
All right, well, we have you here, Counselor Ellie Honey. State Secrets Act, what is it? And what was that reference to Nazis from the judge there? Because it was something specific.
Yeah, so the State Secrets Act is one of those rare and blessed things in the law that is almost exactly what it sounds like. It's when the government says, that's a state secret, we can't turn it over, it's too dangerous. It's rarely invoked. Usually judges do defer to it, not always. Judge Boasberg in this case actually knew this was coming. The government said they're considering it. Judge Boasberg said he's skeptical, in part because the government's already put out a video showing some of this. So he said, how sensitive can it be? We'll see what he does. But that won't end this. All that's going to do is end the judge's ability to get more information about the flights. Now, the Nazi comparison that the judge made today, is listening to the oral argument. The point the judge was making is the last time we as a country used this Alien Enemies Act was during and after, actually, World War II, where Germans who were suspected of being Nazi sympathizers were given a hearing before they were loaded onto planes, before they were deported. And that was really the key question at today's oral argument. What process, if any, are these people, in this case the Venezuelan gang members, entitled to before they're shipped out? And the thing that I found was interesting is the Trump administration lawyer even said they are entitled to some due process. It's through this thing called habeas. It's not the greatest form of due process, but the Trump administration is on record now saying they're entitled to some form of due process.
Going forward or going backwards?
That's the catch.
These planes are gone.
Right, that's the catch. It's really difficult legally and practically to bring a habeas lawsuit if A, you're out of the country. You can, but it's really hard if you're in El Salvador. And B, if the lawyers don't even know who you are, I don't know how they're even going to get in touch with counsels. And that was sort of one of the points of like, isn't this a little bit of a catch-22? You, government, you're saying they're entitled to bring these habeas cases, but it's almost impossible to do after the fact. And really the fault that the Judge Boasberg has laid on the government here is, even if you did not intentionally defy me, you played it real fast and loose. You had those planes ready to go. You could have waited. They were in the air. They were scrambled. And when I gave the order, it was apparently already too late.
Well, I think the challenge here is we actually don't know if a lot of these people, I don't trust the Trump administration to tell me who these people are and if they're actually gang members. In January, the Trump administration arrested over 1,200 people, ICE arrested over 1,200 people. Less than half were actually convicted criminals, or there was no evidence that they had done anything wrong other than step foot in this country.
Well, they don't have to be criminals. This is not a prosecution.
A lot of them were caught
Fair
with
enough.
criminals. They were executing warrants for criminals, so you might be a gangbanger. Your buddy's sitting on the couch next to you, also illegal. Those are people that got caught up in these dragnets. So I'm not upset one bit.
I think my point about them just randomly, indiscriminately rounding up people, I have flashbacks. I'm old enough to remember when they were doing this with actual children. And according to the Human Rights Law, or the Human Rights Watch rather, there are still over 1,300 children who they never reunited with their family. We don't know where they are. So I think this idea
why are these children here? Why is
because their families were trying to escape in comprehensible circumstances. It was not Joe Biden administration that let them in.
Why there's children here is because the failures of Joe Biden in letting
Again, it goes back to Joe Biden. He's not the president right now.
Let the people
And the fact of the
they
matter
came in
though
because
is,
Joe Biden failed on the border.
Okay, fine. If you want to say Joe Biden failed on the border, fine. But the fact of the matter
to this country, and now
Joe, then Tiffany, then Dan.
I quit now, Tim.
Oh, you're done? Okay, no, Tiffany.
Joe Biden let these people in. If she has a problem that we don't know who they are, that they were unvetted, this could have been solved in a regular immigration process where we would have seen, hey, you're a member of a gang. You can't come in. Hey, you're not a member of a gang. You're welcome to come in.
Tiffany?
I don't think that is how it goes. And if we want to keep talking about the Joe Biden administration, then we can rewind time. But the fact of the matter is, when Donald Trump was in office the first time, he was a champion of separating families. And as a result of that, John, I just want to say over 1,300 children remain lost. I do not trust this administration.
We're talking about the Alien Entities Act here. We're talking about using this wartime powers to
But there is
attract what
still
they
a
call
human
gang
rights
members.
issue, and the way that these people are treated is completely inhumane. And the fact of the matter is, if these were white babies being stripped from their families, if these are white men with families, there would be a whole different level of humanity extended to them. And I don't see that happening. The way these people are treated is absolutely criminal. Criminal.
I think the larger issue here is that this is a president and administration who's making a mockery of the law and only using the law when it's convenient for their agenda. Let me give you an example. Here, in the case of deportations, they disrespect due process. They say it's not needed. But when they fire 16,000 probationary employees and a judge says you can't do that, they say, wait a minute, due process, Supreme Court, come in. You're going to stop this and try to file an injunction. There is no consistency here. It's literally the whim of this president and his administration for whatever favors him. That's the problem.
But let me pull us back 40,000 feet, or however cruising out through those plains was. But do you think there's not a comms team in the White House watching right now, giddy that there's a member of the Biden administration, extolling the virtues of why we need to afford Trende Aragua due process when there was no due process
legal
for
process.
people when they came here.
I extol the virtues
and they
of
ended
not
up committing
firing
crimes,
inspectors
making
general
violence, there's all
or
these
having an independent
claims.
DOJ. That's what I respect. You should too.
They're in open defiance of the judiciary right now.
No, they're in litigation right now. They're respecting the court, and they decided to invoke a legal statute to prevent any more information.
I'll quote an amazing legal analyst and say they played it fast and loose. Is that what
That's
you
what I
said?
said. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
I mean, obviously, there's a huge dispute between the executive branch and the judiciary over who's got what authority to do what here. I think the Trump administration has an argument to make. It's not going to be sorted out at the district or even Court of Appeals level. At some juncture, because it is a serious separation of powers issue, the Supreme Court has to step in. By the way, you invoke the word inhumane. I would just point out that I don't think Jessica Nungare or Laken Riley or any other victims of some of these illegal immigrants and gang members, they weren't treated very humanely. And I think what Trump is responding to is an outcry from the American people to solve this issue, to get the criminals out. And that's what they're doing. That's what they believe their mandate is to do. And I think there are legal arguments to be made, but you cannot deny that the American people are giving them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to exiting from the country these animals.
No, and I will just, in closing, this appeals court judge was also making the point clearly the Nazis had victims who were treated in inhumane ways as well, but the Nazis were granted a process to determine whether, in fact, they were Nazis when they were being deported with the Alien Enemies Act. We will see if there is a process that is put. Maybe the solution is to put a process in place. Hey, we're going to have a hearing, and then we're going to remove all these gang members, and so everyone's happy in the end. Thank you all, Ellie.